Gentlemen! Oh God, we're being filmed!
Oh no!
Oh! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of the D20 Live viewing audience, we, the assembled players of the D20 Live troupe, have brought to you today a comedy, but also an adventure, nay, a romance, a horror. There might be some science fiction, there might be some science fantasy, but we are playing the extraordinary adventures of Baron Munchausen. I'm, of course, Big Mike, and tonight we are each playing as different incarnations, conceptually, well, Baron-esque kind of characters, some kind of foppish nobility telling a story that will make no sense, but it doesn't matter. We have all been shooting the shit for the last hour, so we don't care. But I'm Big Mike. Starting off on my left is Byron.
Hello, good evening, fair Twitch and YouTube viewers. I am Byron, and tonight I will be playing Lord Admiral Archibald Busybody.
Yes. And at my bottom left is Tom. Hey, Tom.
Which Tom?
Bottom left Tom, which is the Tom from the West.
Greetings, ladies, gentlemen, and those in between. I shall be playing Lord Merchant of Kent, Lord of Canterbury, and owner of a small little, quaint little village called Wye.
And right beneath me, with his wonderful gnomish hat, is, of course, Jordan.
How fucking dare you? This is my crown. I earned this in honorable, glorious combat.
Perhaps you'll tell us that story later today. And, of course, to my bottom right.
Hold on, I'm not done.
I'm sorry.
God, I'm gonna have problems with you. I am the Grand Sparkle Lord Reginald von Kittybottom, Archbishop of the Deep Cinnamon Bun Swamp. I have been ordained to grant the blessings of cinnamon sugar upon you all.
Glorious title for a glorious man.
Yes. And, of course, to my bottom left, there is our Eastern Tom.
Yes, and today I will be playing the
Greetings,
archduke
Eastern Tom.
Verily von Victorsnatch.
Yes. And lastly, coming in from Australia, the one and immutable Dr. Tarawat.
Yes, I am known to some in the community as a one Cornell Macbeth. I'm also known to others as Toronto's greatest supervillain and evil genius, Dr. Tarawat. But no, those people are fictions, figments of your imagination. For today, I am Grampton St. Rumterfrabble from Saunterblugget, Hampshire.
And
I'm your moderator, Sam.
a victim.
I'm not playing anything. I'm just here to make sure that they actually do things and stay within a reasonable amount of time. Also, I will be reading out your donations because if you donate, I think, what was it?
$1 to ask a question.
$1 to ask a question to the lords while they tell their story, or $10 to input your own thing that might have happened to the lords as they tell their stories.
And we missed one lord. Mike, did you introduce yourself?
Oh, of course. Tonight I am Governor Jerry Baldersnatchy.
Good day.
Good day, lords.
Good day, lords.
Good day.
Good day.
Begin.
Hey,
Very well. Moderator!
Yes.
Moderating wench. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
Moderating
their name
wench.
is Sam, short for Samuelette.
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 And we're starting off strong, aren't we?
Samuelette!
So, just to answer a question, because people have been asking what system this is in. This is the system, The Extraordinary Adventures of Baron Munchausen. This is legitimately a system. Literally, there's a book about, this is literally the book of how to play the game. And I'm going to be giving the first prompt, So...
None of us have read it.
No.
The first prompt... who's going first, by the way? Just
You decide. You're the moderator.
all right, then. We're going to start off with Fuck, I don't remember any of your names. Even though I have the
I
document.
believe there is a document in the Googles for this.
Yes.
Let's hear the scroll!
Produce the scroll of names of which carry our true names
All right.
and our truest names.
Lord Admiral Archibald Busybody,
Yes.
please tell us the story as to why is it in France that you are known as the Fifth Musketeer?
There's a wonderful tale that I'll be telling you to this blinking cyclops right here. Naturally, when I was making my way through the wilds and the vineyards of France, I happened to stumble across 4 young men dressed all in blue with a fleur-de-lis emblazoned on their chest. Porthos, Athos, Aramis, and of course the young D'Artagnan. They all seemed fettered by troubles. Lady de Winter had sent coded messages to the hated members of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. War with the Austro-Hungarian Empire was sudden. They needed to make their way from France to Austria-Hungary, but the horses were lame. Fortunately, I had my carriage with me, so I said, "Boys, load up. I'll take you as far as you need to be." And
But,
when we left...
Lord Admiral Busybody,
Yes!
surely you would not share your carriage with Frenchmen?
These were Frenchmen of particular note, which is why I named them, as opposed to saying lowly French and tabards. Yes, so they loaded their swords, they loaded their guns, they loaded their grenades into the carriage, and we made haste towards the Austro-Hungarian Empire.
But my lord, and I'm going to
Yes.
offer in a coin, my lord,
Yes.
was not the Austro-Hungarian Empire entirely bereft by a sudden wave of termites? How did you get your carriage through there?
Ah, you see, my wheels were claddered and clasped in metal, my good fellow. So the termites could naturally not penetrate the wheels, and thus we stayed the course towards the Austro-Hungarian Empire. I met with the Archduke Ferdinand there, and I pled with them. War between the empires will surely envelop everyone. We need to avoid an unnecessary loss of life. While I was winking at his wife, the Contessa. I made eyes with her. Oh, it was so sweet. It was courtly love at first sight. However, my mission was paramount to avoid a world war between the empires. D'Artagnan.
Lord.
Yes.
Are we certain that she was making eyes back at you, or was she simply enjoying her carriage ride through the notoriously bumpy French countryside in your wheels made entirely of metal?
Well, you see, her bosom was bouncing heavily, and she
I'm
was
sure that
shooting
was.
the eyes. Yes, but of course, because she was making eyes with me, and they were the beautiful pools of limpid blue. I could not resist. I said, "D'Artagnan, you are the youngest. Get out and drive the carriage. I must make sure that the Contessa is safe with us."
But wait!
Yes.
Lord Admiral Busybody.
Yes.
It is a well-known fact that the color blue isn't real. Right.
My sir, my good sir, have you not looked up at the sky? Oh wait, no, you're in Australia. It's purple down there, isn't it?
Look how green it is in here. Blue's
Yes.
not real.
Yes, it seems to be quite like Namek down there. Well, Australia tends to be considered a different planet, so I'll understand. But here, in the northern part of the world, where people aren't criminals, the sky is blue, as is the ocean. So I'm afraid, good sir, that your attempt to stop this story has been met with a wooden block.
Well, I see.
Now, may I continue?
Of course.
Yes. While we were in the palace of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, I ventured to the Amber Room with the Archduke, and there we set out and hammered out a compact that war between France and the Austro-Hungarian Empire would not result in war. And besides, I left the guns and the swords back in the carriage, so that way no one could do any sort of fighting in the midst of our agreements. Once the compact was signed, I had it notarized and sent off several copies, both to England, France, Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Germanic countries, the northern countries of Norway, and of course, the savage lands of northern Africa, thus preventing war, and in my honor, I was named the 5th Musketeer. However, Dumas, in his arrogance, left me out of the book entirely. And that is how I became the 5th Musketeer.
Yeah,
Very good.
very good.
Very
Very good.
You enjoy that story, lads!
I did not
Good.
keep track of Byron. I hope you kept track of what coins you took and which you rebuked, because I think you rebuked Connell's technically.
I rebuked Connell's, yeah.
Okay.
I took yours, and I took...
apologize.
No,
No.
that was funny as hell. Are you kidding me? You got 2
Today.
coins for that.
The color blue
Am I?
clearly
Is
true.
this how we play the game?
Yeah.
Yes!
So
This is how we
if
play
we
the
don't-
game.
If we don't accept your prompt, you get 2 coin. You get your coin back and one of your opponent's coins.
Oh,
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah.
So for the audience, just so that everyone has caught up, the lords here are going to be telling stories of their extravagant lives. At which point they're also putting in money, which we don't physically have, unfortunately, but we're the ethereal money of whether or not the things that they say are actually true. And of course, the lords never lie because that's obviously
Naturally.
Yeah.
right. So now, the thing is that with the audience, you can also add in with donations of actual money to add into the madness that is going on here. As you can see, for an example, as to what happened with the great admiral here,
Yes.
he rebuked Connell's, which made that Connell got back one of his coins as well as one of
St. Propter.
sorry, Rompton St. Problem. Got one of his coins back as well as one of the admirals, and the governor
Yo, I lost one.
put in one of his, and Byron now has and now the admiral has now gained one of the governor's coins. So yes,
As well as from Lord Melchett,
yes.
because I accepted his.
Yes, Lord Melchett, as well as Grand Sprinkle Lord, also submitted a coin, of which I believe you accepted.
Yes,
So,
I did.
I'm down to 5.
So rich they have to gamble with ethereal money. Yes. So
Yes!
you as the audience can gamble with real money because we are all plebeians, unfortunately. So we have to give real money in order to actually donate for things.
Ever since that blasted EU came along, our currency has been ill-tempt.
Oh, God.
So I have
Grampton,
money
you
5.
You killed me with that fucking color blues.
Was a good one.
Good try, by the way. Good try.
Good try. He
Very
succeeded.
good.
He took a coin for it.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was just thinking, like, what's the most ridiculous fucking thing I could say about her eyes being blue? And I was like, blue's not fucking real. Like,
Blue doesn't exist.
Sam, who's next?
yo,
Alrighty then. We're going to go with the Archduke Verli von Victor Snatch. So, Archduke, please tell us the story of how you refused to wear the color scarlet, eat eggs, or ride a horse on a Tuesday.
Oh, yes. Now, this wasn't just any Tuesday. It was the most special of Tuesdays. It happened to be Christmas.
Tuesday.
It was a festive season, grand day, and of course, I will regale you of how I refused to prompt. What was it again?
Sam, he needs the prompt again.
So, you refuse to wear scarlet, eat eggs, or ride a horse on a Tuesday.
Got it. Yes, and so I woke up bright and early on this morning, and for my breakfast, I usually eat 24 eggs, as is my custom, for I am a very hearty and healthy man, with with 4 pounds of bacon and a steak. However, I could not partake of my typical meal this morning. For the previous night, I had entertained some lady folk, and I had surmised that such a manly breakfast would be too much for my fair guests.
But Archduke,
Yes.
how could you have been spending the night with women? Do you not know that they have the cooties?
Oh yes, this is while this is a known fact. I had a special amulet blessed by Saint Augustine himself that prevented such transmissions, and therefore I was immune. But as he had told me, this amulet has only a certain number of uses, so I only do this for special occasions, and that was one. And the night prior was one such. Moving on, my typical manly breakfast of 2 dozen eggs, 4 pounds of bacon, and a steak was too manly for my fair company, and so
Far too manly. Far too.
far too manly.
Far too. Far too. Rubble, rubble.
And so I surmised that this morning shall be a light breakfast of vegetables and fruit. So I had to refuse such my typical fare.
The meal of the macaw, some say.
Yes. And of course, one does not dine the previous evening with fair ladies and then simply oust them in the morning.
You don't? Gadzooks, man!
No!
You knew their names!
Wait, did
Of
you...
course.
Wait, my good Archduke, did you intend to create some form of harem with these women?
Oh no! I was simply.
Oh!
How shameful! How shameful!
Oh!
Shameful!
I was being polite and gentlemanly and offering a whole day of entertainments.
Oh.
Yes, and so because of course every morning I would take I would run and race with my horses, not ride them, but race them.
No,
race
clearly,
them.
you must train them. Yes.
Yes. They
Show how
need to
it's
be
done.
shown who has the speed.
This is after 4 dozen eggs, several pounds of meat, and a good thrumping in the sack. Clearly.
Yes, of course.
How else does one begin my morning?
Clearly by dying due to egg inhalation.
Sure as hell isn't cholesterol poisoning, fuck.
And so, I surmised that I would not be able to go for my daily exercise in the morning, and so we decided to paint landscapes. I was going to teach them the most sacred techniques that I was taught by Vincent van Gogh himself. It was a marvelous,
Duke,
marvelous couple of weeks with him.
But Archduke, the techniques taught by Van Gogh himself, they are forbidden to be taught to women on pain of death, on execution by the Archduke Franz Ferdinand himself. How did you do this?
Oh yes, of course. What I meant to say is that I don't the techniques. I merely used the techniques myself, and so I was not going to be put to the pain of death because I was not showing them how to do this style of painting. I was simply dazzling them with how I did this painting.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. And so after producing 3 landscape paintings, and a portrait for each of them, we retired for lunch. Now, while this would have been a magnificent time for me to wear,
Archduke!
Yes,
Archduke Verily von Victor Snatch.
yes.
It is a well-known fact that lunch is a myth. Explain yourself.
I must once again repeat what Admiral Archibald Busybody has said. In the northern civilized world, where humanity is banished,
Yes, that's right, you barbarian.
lunch occurs at noon and happens for everybody. Down in your criminal land of Australia,
Crafton's
it is not so.
Excuse me, my cousin is from there.
And so after our lovely lunch, we had I had planned to show them some magnificent stylings of my scarlet vestiges, but they, having been said that they prefer men who wear royal blue, I could, of course, only wear such fine colors for them. That in that afternoon.
But my lord Archduke,
Yes.
it's Christmas time, as you said.
Mhm.
Scarlet red is a popular color over Christmas time, is it not?
Yes,
all
of
the-
course it is.
All the fashions were of scarlet red during Christmas time. So how did you procure your royal blue vestments?
Oh, it was a most curious story. Let me tell you about the time that I saved a French noble from an awful fate and terrible evening of him having to spend it with his wife.
Why are we still saving the French? They should be left to their own devices.
But I did this while giving him great insult. So it was a win-win, how you say. He owed me a marvelous favor, and had to swallow his pride at the same time. And the favor was, of course, to produce me a suit more opulent, more blue than the French king himself. And so that is the vestment that I wore, and that is how I was able to procure a vestments of royal blue in the time where Scarlet and Christmas are in season.
This.
And of course, as the evening came to a close, there were no more clothes, and that is how I spent an entire Tuesday not eating eggs, not riding a horse, and avoiding wearing the color scarlet.
Bully!
Oh,
Good tale! A good tale! Once again, proving that blue does indeed exist in the northern climes.
I'm terrified for when I am terrified when Grampton takes the field. We're gonna throw the most insane shit at him.
I would
hope you
pick
do.
Lord St. Crampton Rubberfrabble. However, we did get a donation from Rustain. Rustain has donated $1, and he says, "Hey, bottom left Tom, are you a serial killer this time as well?" And that is your prompt.
So sorry, why am I a serial killer? Or
No,
am I
bottom
a
left
serial-
top.
The other Tom.
Oh, other
You're
Tom, okay.
Eastern Tom. This is bottom left Tom.
I have never been so insulted in my life, my good sir. I challenge you, were I to be wearing gloves, I would slap you across the face with them. I am a lord. I am a high-wielding gentleman. I own a village in Kent. What I do between the hours of 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. are of my own business and none of yours.
That's between me, myself, and my webcam, thank you.
That's between me and the people on international waters whom I stream it to.
But if you're
Tiny
looking
profit.
for it, go to chatterbait.com/Lord Melchett of Kent.
Support my OnlyFans page, where I dismect and show the insides and wonders of the peasant population and the wonders they have inside. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Who's next for the prompt, Sam?
Did you just straight up admit to being a serial killer? Because I think you did.
I'm a lord. What are they going to do about it? They're peasants. They can't complain. Oh, they're going to go to the police. Oh no, I own them.
All right, so Grampton St.
I offer
Rubberfrabble.
rebuttal in the language of the uprising.
So Grampton St. Rubberfrabble.
Yes.
All right. How did you save the life of the King of the Cats?
Ah, yes.
can't read his face.
Yeah, I have
Saving
no
the
idea.
life of the king of the cats. Oh, we've lost somebody.
Oh no, Admiral,
Nope.
your webcam has
Admiral, your webcam died again.
His blinking cyclops has fallen asleep.
Perhaps one should apply.
Wake up, you chattering cyclops! There!
Ah,
It
yes.
is actually funny that you should mention that. You see, the king of the cats is in fact himself not a cat or a man. He is in fact a chattering cyclops. It was when I was upon the western shores of Australia, just north of England. I was standing there enjoying a sunrise when a scarlet red horse came riding up out of the ocean, chasing a unicorn, breathing hot red eggs from its mouth. It was a sight to behold, for sure. And
But
thanks
grabbed
only
it.
to my training in the circus did I manage to dodge said white-hot eggs as they were coming out of this creature's mouth. And behind me, as many know in Australia, just inside of the western coast, north of England, there was indeed an entire village of cats, owned by this one singular cyclops. Now, how could I, one Brampton St. Robert Problem, stand up
No.
and be such
My
terrible
lord.
creatures riding up out of the ocean? Yes, please go ahead.
My lord, I don't understand how you could be having these adventures nor even live in Australia when clearly it was pulled from the very ocean itself by my cousin's bare hands not but 1 week ago.
Well, yes, of course. Your cousin
How
is a
could
very
you
good
have
friend of
moved
mine.
your estate to the land of Australia when it is still red-hot magma?
Of course. Your cousin, he pulled it up from the ocean not but a few weeks ago. Again, just north of England, which we also know is quite cold. And all it took was a bit of fanning from a nice little fan that I picked up from France to cool the whole place off. It's all very quite new. I forgive you for not understanding. It's quite
What?
okay.
Stop.
Of course, please, go ahead.
Oh no! Anything from France immediately explodes violently in a horrible explosion the moment it leaves French ground. It's the way to contain the French. How could you steal a fan if it would explode the moment you left France?
I use this to my advantage, you see, by taking said fan and jetting just to the edge of France, which of course is just east of Australia. I managed to throw the fan just over the border, and through the explosion it blew a bunch of Antarctic wind clean over Australia, quickly cooling it and making a perfect habitable glass field for cats.
This
As we
makes
all
perfect
know,
sense.
Very much
makes perfect
enjoy
sense.
fields of glass and cyclopses. Anyways, so this red-hot horse was riding up out of the ocean, breathing white-hot eggs at me, you see. And I was thinking to myself, how is I, with my barely any training, going to stand up against such a beast? But just to my right, there was a circus that was coming in through town, with lots of silks being blown through the air. And I thought to myself, this might be the very thing I could use to save these wonderful kittens and this one cyclops who is their leader. For they had many child acrobats with silks tied to their toes.
Saint Rapper.
Saint Rapper.
Yes,
Did you not say you trained in the circus? Circus is not notoriously hateful of each other. Should you not have been killed on sight by the acrobats? Should they not have sick tigers on sight?
you are correct. If it was not for my masterful disguise that I'd made from molten seaweed not a few minutes prior.
Yeah.
It's molten seaweed.
Yes, because it
Of
was
course.
still very hot, you see, from your
Still makes
cousin
sense,
pulling
yes.
Australia from the ocean. Now, this circus, draped in blue silks, making their way just to the right of me, swinging children about from their toes. And as we all know, toes on children is a myth. They don't grow their toes until they're in their mid-50s at least. But they had just run into a purple sea hag earlier that day, causing them to sprout unsightly toes all over their bodies, to
Saint
which the
Wonderful.
silks were tied.
Sage Frapple.
Yes, what is it?
Blue silks, you say? But the color blue doesn't exist.
Ah, yes. But we are just north of England, you see, where it does.
We did establish this twice.
Is my volume still down?
Yes, we've already. Yes, we've already dissuaded that.
Yes.
Yeah, that part.
So these children, swinging by their unsightly toes that were given to them by a sea hag, were swinging about in such a manner. I picked up a piece of loose glass that had been cooled upon its planes by that exploding French fan, throwing it through the air masterfully, as I do with a discus, because I am a gold medalist at the Olympics, you see. And as it soared through the air, cut some of the silk restraints that the children were using to hold themselves aloft, and they careened sidelong into the horse, causing them both to explode, not only saving me from the presence of another unsightly circus, but also saving this cyclops and its kittens.
Yes, guys.
Fuck yeah! Fuck yeah!
Bravo, sir.
Bravo!
Thank you
So-
much.
Grepton, I want to ask you, I almost want to interrupt by asking, how did you go to the Olympics when there was a boycott on account of the fact that there were absolutely 0 seats that did not have thumbtacks in them? But you were doing too well.
Mr.
I
Classic
could answer
Magic
that
has
question
followed
if you
us.
would like.
No, I'm good.
So during
you
during
good? No? Are you
during
sure?
Repton Saint Ruppelfrabble's performance, Mr. Classic Magic has now followed us. Thank you, Mr. Classic Magic. And Shadowcrone has hosted us with 1 viewer. Thank you, Shadowcrone.
Oh, thank you so much.
Hey, Shadow.
Yeah. Bully!
Now for the next prompt.
I gotta take this
Wait,
fucking scarf.
Was there a question or just?
Does anyone have any more questions? I'll be happy to answer them.
No, we're good. We're good. We know when we're licked.
All right. Lord Melchett of Kent.
Lord Melchett of Kent.
Lord Melchett, sorry.
Lord Malachite of Blum.
Why have you drunk every bottle of cognac bottled in the year of 1743 in the world?
Ah, yes. This is an excellent tale and a very important story for all.
Well, clearly the answer is that he's a drunk.
Were it only so easy, my friend. Were it only so easy. Sorry, out of context, what year was this again?
1743.
Stop
17
Googling 1743 to see what happened.
1743. Well, as we all know, 1743 was quite an excellent year for cognac. The trees were in season, the peasants were working in full swing, the French shut up for once in their fucking lives. And this worked out exceptionally well for the cognac industry, as they were silent, they were drinking much more, because as the French extrude anger through their voice, this one is an end, and so the world was in a peace of levity and love for one glorious year. However, as it turned out, the spewed and contained anger within the French was seeped out into the soil, and it ruined the next year's harvest, which was, of course, branded 1743, as it was cognac you year the year before, so that when it's produced, it is seeds are planted in that year, and thus it is that year's brand. So, the year 1743 for cognac, though a good year in reality, was horrible for the drink. For inside of each bottle was seething French anger, and this, of course, was spread throughout the world. And there is no course of action.
Lord
Yes.
Melchett of Kent. It is a well-known fact that the French are incapable of anger.
Oh, yes, of course. They cannot concede anger. They can only do it through snide comments and quirly fashion, and installing fashion throughout the world that is impractical and slightly painful.
And that
this
was used in the fermentation of this cognac, then.
Oh yes, it was just right into the depths of the cognac. One swig of this, and all of a sudden you must own 3 more handkerchiefs. You must have pointy shoes, at least 4 inches in height, or else you'll be unfashionable at the balls.
Quite
This was unacceptable for a man of a gentleman and a man of my standing. So I ventured forth from my manor in Kent. Why, lovely little village, highly recommended, one village of the year. I set forth with 3 of my compatriots. Randall Hesquan, a man of vision and able to throw any object regardless of tact. My lord friend Geoffrey Watts, a man of great strength and unimaginable power, whose family sigil is a large beetle. And of course, my dear personal friend, Lord Jonathan. Jonathan was the fastest man I'd ever seen, and dare I say the man could run across the Channel Thames with only his feet alone. And it was using these 3 glorious friends that I went forth, and I found every single batch of 1743 brandy across the world.
But Lord Melchett,
Showering
Lord Melchett, it's well known that you're kind of an asshole. How did you make friends?
Well, it is very true. I might have a story and an attitude that some might find repulsive. But I pay these gentlemen to be my friends,
God.
and I pay them quite handsomely. So with my compatriots, we went to every single noble in the entire world. We went to every wine cellar, every basement. We bashed the door down of every pub across England. And we found every bottle, and we gathered them all into the most hate-filled place in the world. South London. It was there I spent the greater part of 1748 drinking the brandy to ensure that no man alive would drink such a horrible, vile concoction. During of which I caused a fashion crisis. I invented a new style of shoe known as the sneakers, which are lower flat flats, which allow you to walk across wonderful terrain without alerting people to your presence, which I then used with the handkerchief, and I may have accidentally given insight to one Jack the Ripper. It was quite the fun year. And that is the story of why I drank every bottle of cognac from 1743.
Well done, Lord.
Oh, yes. It was quite the year.
That sounds like quite the sacrifice.
It was.
I am
I could
boiling
barely
hot
see it
in
in
this
there.
fucking coat.
Thank you, E. Lackey, for following us.
I'm sorry, that's the first thing you had to do.
All right. So hang on 1 second while I find another prompt for the Grand Sprinkle Lord Reginald von Kittybottom.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
When did he get here?
All right.
Oh,
When did he
Grand
get here?
Sprinkle Lord Reginald von Kittybottom.
Oh, that's me. Ah, yes. Hello.
Tell us how you righted the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Well, clearly I didn't, you see, for it is still leaning, but it's an interesting story nonetheless. What happened was I was called forth from Rome to, due to my archbishop's status of the deep cinnamon bun swamps, to bring my expertise to bear on this leaning tower. It's quite a shame, unfortunately, that I wasn't able to write it, but, we definitely had an interesting time trying to do so. It turns out the tower itself is not actually a building. It springs from the ground as a natural occurrence. It's the only one of its kind and is quite alive, you'll see. It forms the antenna shaft of a larger creature deep underground, where the creature uses it to breathe, you see. Underneath, it's a giant subterranean leviathan made entirely of pasta and legumes.
But Grand Sprinkle Lord Reginald von Kittybottom, it is
When did he
well-known
get here?
fact that breathing is a myth.
Indeed it is, for we all gain oxygen directly through our eyes. That's why the tower is actually its optical nerve center. I am myself quite a scientist, I'll have you notice.
Archduke, Victor Snatch. I must point out the gaping hole in your story.
Who's the
not Victor
archduke?
Snatch, he's Sprinkle Lord.
I am a sprinkle.
I am
How
still
dare
drunk.
you! I am a sprinkle lord, and I will be called such. Thank you.
My apologies, Sprinkle Lord. I am still drunk from 1748.
Grand
But I must
Sprinkle Lord,
point out-
Grand Sprinkle Lord.
Grand Sprinkle Lord, I must point out.
I'm
this
no
is a
normal
world-
sprinkle lord. You think I woke up yesterday and was just a sprinkle lord? I'll have you know, I owned those people.
From one lord to another, you have my most humble apologies, good sir. But I
Goddamn
must
right.
point out, it is a scientific fact that the Leaning Tower of Pisa is directly connected to the heads of Easter Island through a series of concrete tubes.
Oh, hold on.
How can you explain that?
Well, I didn't want to go into it because it is quite sensitive. However, the Easter Island heads are actually the toes of this grand beast. poking directly out of the dirt.
Goodness.
My lord.
This is why.
How? How lewd.
And
Beast.
just between us. Oh, shut up. Hold on. This is between us. If you go to the Easter Islands and you use a sufficiently sized broom, it has to be a broom. Bristles made of hay. If you scrub the Easter Island heads on the top, you will cause an earthquake in Rome.
Oh, of course.
From the Leviathan giggling like a delicate little girl.
It has to be hay from West Germany, of course.
Only the finest of West German hay.
Of course.
Yes.
Softest type of hay. Yeah, of course.
Yes, so we
I knew a
ended
man
up
who used East
discussing-
German hay. Repugnant.
We end up finding this animal, this creature, this nation's god, buried deep within the Roman Peninsula, as you know, which goes all the way down into the sub-Saharan African desert. And this is how the Mediterranean was formed. That was what you were asked me, isn't it?
Yes, sure. Does anyone keep
Excellent
track of the
story, my
coins
lord.
they've been
Excellent
spending and
story.
gaining? 'Cause I have.
Now, if one of you could explain to me where the fuck I actually am, I would love to know.
I believe you're at the part where you corrected the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
No, where am I physically? My lord, I have no idea.
Who knows? It's where, location
We
is
all
an
know,
affair.
Lord, that presence is a myth.
I woke up
Some
here.
lord of cinnamon bun swamps or something, I don't know. Still
Grand Archduke! And I'll have you know, I swear to God, I will duel you right here and now.
You're a challenge! Right!
Oh, crap!
Challenge, then.
Is this a sword? Oh my God!
How about you?
Right! 10 years!
Have we gone to
no,
duels
no.
already?
I don't know where that-
Samantha Lean! My sword!
Oh no. Alright,
10 years, Easter Island, you and me, winner takes all!
It will be a one-on-one.
The blue one!
We will.
We will fight with
Are you
swords.
actually
that
sending her to find a sword?
600 years from now.
I will
Thank
duel
you,
you in
Samantha
the
Lee.
grand
My
form
sword.
of the Ultra Lord, which we all clearly. In that we will collect the finest of roundest rocks, put them in our hands, and as per the gnomish elders of my kind, we will cause them to turn into glowing polyhedrons. And if you cannot, then I take your wife.
You may take her now, good sir. You may take her now.
On a phenomenal sandwich date, of which I will then return her to you, knowing that you are a lesser a man for your lack of sandwich skills.
Oh, no. She's your problem now.
No!
It looks like I am the victor of the duel.
I cannot, unfortunately, for I am an archduke of the Cinnamon Bun Swamps and therefore forbidden to marry. For my love is
No,
only...
not only-
Correction.
So now you not only insult my honor, but you frown upon my wife and offer her freedom only to squash it. You,
My lord.
sir, are a cow.
Governor
My-
Jerry Bouldersnatchy, if I may.
My lord, we all frown upon your wife.
We all
I've
You
done
referred
so
to
for
our
nigh on a
lovely,
fortnight for the last 3
hostess
years.
as Samantha Lean, when
Yes.
I believe it was established that Sam was short for Samuelite, as this is not indeed a person who is hosting us here, but a precious gem in person form,
Indeed. I was using her by her sacred middle name that you only use
made
for
of
requests.
solid Samuel. Oh, of course, yes, Samuelite
Oh,
Samantha
yeah.
Lean.
Yes. It's
Well,
Samuelite when
what's
you are
it-
asking for
Apologies,
prompts.
apologies.
I
Samueline
beg your...
when you're asking for physical
your,
things.
I beg your pardon saying but isn't it the element Samsonite?
Well, the element Samsonite was clearly named after her.
Yeah.
No!
By her father.
Well, I did name all of the elements just last week, so yes, there are indeed 2 names for Samuelite.
My
I
lord
think
governor.
some of them as many as 6 names.
So, Sam, we need to add Samantha Lean, Samantha Light. We have to add your name now to the Google Doc
Oh,
for
no.
notes
All
for
right.
this adventure. So you are
Samuelite Samantha Lean.
Well, since we're at the moment, might I tell the story of the time I saw a locomotive swerve sharply and fly off the tracks into a ravine. It seems very reminiscent of this conversation.
You would, but I believe our good Samanthaline Samantholite has a prompt.
I do.
I
For
believe it's for the governor.
Governor Jerry Baldersnatchy.
Oh dear, it's my turn.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Please tell
My
us.
clothing and smoke.
Please tell us the story of your discovery of the effects of lion dung as a cure for rheumatism.
I remember this.
I do.
This is a good one. I do remember.
It was in the darkest parts of Africa, so really just the parts that were under trees, that I discovered the cure for rheumatism.
Makes sense.
You
Makes
see,
sense.
I was there, providing myself as guide and local person. No, don't eat that. It's full of poison. For the expedition of the right, proper Baron Horstick von der Worcestershire. The third.
Saxon!
Yes. Don't ask
Can't
me to
argue
repeat
that name.
No, you can
Literally.
try.
Literally can't.
So, while there, the entire group had strategically developed rheumatism because, of course, they were celebrating with an orgy, having not died in Africa, which for white people is a big deal.
That's just the truth.
So,
it is the local custom.
as I had not joined in the orgy at the time, I had not contracted rheumatism, despite my voracious sexual appetite, because I wanted to make sure. Anyway. Are you okay, Samanthaline Samanthalite?
Fine.
Hold on there, Governor Jerry Baldersnatchy.
What?
Your voracious sexual appetite is not only the truth, but is vastly understated by you in this moment. How could you have possibly resisted this orgy of rheumatoid arthritic people?
How could I have avoided it? 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 Get this fucking shirt off. It's hot in here. How could I have fucking avoided it?
All right, get it, Dick.
We must
Ah,
travel
he's
for him. Rabble.
I just like that. Okay, Mike is getting steadily more undressed as we go.
Governor,
How could I have avoided it? I'll tell you how. Once every 7 years, I must abstain from all sexual contact for a grand total of the duration of one orgy or 4 hours at the hours between 10 o'clock and 2 a.m. And as everyone knows,
Oh yes, I've
an
heard of
orgy...
this. They call it the reverse pawn far.
Yes. Now, as everyone knows, a good orgy lasts no longer than 4 hours, because 5 hours is Satan's number, not 6. The Catholics edited it on so no one would practice devilry. That's why.
Governor,
Yes.
we have a donation of $5.
Oh, goodness.
Counter Saturn has rebuted you and said, but sir, orgies are not real.
They are indeed a fallacy, sir. Explain yourself.
Of course they are. You see, what we commonly believe to be an orgy is, in fact, myth, and I will explain why.
Please do.
You see, an orgy, by its definition, implies that many people are having sex with each other at the same time. Which is impossible, because everyone only has so many sexual organs with which to have sex. Everything else
Speak
is
for
just...
yourself.
Hang on! Everything else is just foreplay. So it is impossible for more people to have sex with more other people at the same time, as each person only has one organ to rub against another organ, of which is your preference. Hey, we're all cool here. Now,
It is the 1820s,
because of that,
indeed.
there's no such thing actually as an orgy. It's just a bunch of people having sex with each other on a pile and occasionally swapping. So while orgies aren't true, swinger parties are fucking real, baby.
Goodness.
Support his OnlyFans
I have-
account and find out more.
I have no knowledge about that whatsoever.
I have
Nope,
learned
haven't.
so much today.
Yeah, I'm gonna take that fucking coin. Yeah, fucking suck on that. Anyway, what was I? Right, the rheumatism orgy. Anyway, because the entire group had come down with rheumatism and traveling with people with rheumatism is fucking annoying, I decided to find a cure. So I began to battle. Yeah, what?
My dear Governor,
Yes.
with the clattering of rheumatoid-infused bones, wouldn't that attract predators to the area of this orgy?
Oh, it did.
How did you deal with them?
Why? I was very horny. And when a man is horny, he is not satisfied, he is angry. So angry, in fact, he could box a lion. And I did box a lion so hard, it pooped itself.
But My
Oh.
good governor! Lions had been extinct for 20 years!
Not since the incident.
Was this the incident where you fucked a lion back into existence? Can you describe that tale to us, please? I've heard this in the whispers of the kitchen in the darkest recesses of the manor, but I have not ever once heard it told from your own
Mike,
voice.
you gotta keep
In order
going!
for this story to make perfect sense, which it has up until this moment, you must now also tell us about the incident.
Direct yourself to your chattering cyclops and explain this tale, governor.
Very well. I will tell you the incident of the reconception of the lions. While lions did not exist, it is truth that they were actually bred out through the great perverse lion-tiger hybridization of 1744, brought on by a distinct
dastardly
lack of
ligers.
cognac by someone who will go nameless,
The powers and magic.
in an effort to amuse themselves. The combination of tiger and lion was so perverse that it made the lions extinct. However, there was an incident. For, if you recall, I said there was no such thing as an orgy, but a swinger pile of people that were, of course, laying on top of each other. And as we know, lions are very horny. So, combined with their now tiger DNA, they were super horny. And proceeded to have many, not quite orgies, but for all intents and purposes, and selectively bred lions back into existence.
Nah, I see. It was
And that
really
is
just-
what we call the incident. We call it the incident because absolutely no one wants to be in a place where that many ligers are having sex. Because no one wants to cock block a liger.
Nah, I see. It was all just a whim away.
Indeed.
Need a weem away.
You are fired.
Anyway,
It is
such was
indeed simply
the
just a whim away.
such
That was
was
for the coin.
the such
Ooh-wee.
was the beating that I had delivered to these beasts of the forest that many kinds of feces ended up on the people who were rheumatic. And miraculously enough, some of them became better. And it took a great deal more animal beating to procure more feces. But I was able to get it down to the lions. And perhaps there is a little bit of tiger in there as well. Who is to say? I am not a scientist. I am merely a man who denied himself sex one night, beat up lions, and cured rheumatism. I am just an agent of God, good sir. Good day.
Indeed, I come specifically to the party.
Well said.
What
Such
the
is
fuck did I just say?
Such is.
I believe that's
What
the end of
is-
the round.
So I'm gonna just read because oh god. Whew. All right. So
Samueline. I can't
Samuelite.
Samuelathine.
yeah. Essentially, Counter Saturn said Time Tiger unfucked the breeding of the tigers and the lion.
Yes.
A lot of Time Tiger.
Yes. Yes, he was
One
involved.
day we'll hunt that time tiger down.
You
The
son
ultimate
of a-
safari through the ages.
Son of a bitch. Now,
And then there was also No Wonder the Lion Sleeps Tonight.
What is this? What is this show right
I
now?
don't know.
All I know
I
is
wonder if
spent
fantasy
one coin and I got my money's worth.
I
The
wonder
trick
if
is to
fantasy-
lean into it.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if like Fantasy Flight Games found it on Twitter or Twitch. It's like, oh, someone's playing our game. No.
I mean, in the loosest sense possible, yes.
Oh, so I guess it's time for the audience and us to vote for our favorite story.
So, all right. So, audience, please. Oh
Whoa.
goodness. All right. Panzer V2. I will read that in a little bit. Right now we're gonna do voting of who everybody picks to which story you have enjoyed the most so far. We are at the halfway point.
Yeah. Oh, we are. Fuck. I thought that was going to take up less time. We're already an hour in. Fuck.
We're too good. We,
You
we
know,
tell
like
too
hour
many
and a half.
stories.
It's going to be an hour and a half. No, we filled a whole hour on the first round.
We have one vote for Sealing Dock. the lion story. The French clearly won. Another one for lion story.
The French! The French!
Mike Von Kitty Rear. Cognac story. I show up in various states of suits and clothes, and Connell's webcam is upside down. I'm guessing intentionally.
Yes, intentionally.
Yeah. You told me it'll be cool. Turn your camera upside down. It'd be great.
The French. How does one pick their favorite fever dream? Cognac.
Brilliant.
Bottom left,
believe
Tom
I'm
is AKA
tied.
the serial killer.
I am not a serial killer, for God's sakes.
That sounds exactly what a serial killer would say.
Yeah, exactly.
Lexington Delta has now followed us. Thank you, Lexington Delta. All right.
You have it be proven in court like the normal person.
Okay, and we all have to vote for our favorite stories as well.
We've lost our friends here
We
again.
lost Byron.
He's been sucked into another dimension again.
Damnable Cyclops, wake up.
The Cyclops is falling asleep.
Your blinking Cyclops is failing you.
Lord Admiral Archibald Busybody, you get back in here and tell me a story, you.
I'll do it when I'm ready to. Australian.
All right.
Wow.
Boom. Everyone knows serial killers aren't real. Everyone knows bandwidth is a myth.
It was invented
All
by
right.
the Irish.
So,
to
Sam,
confuse
who's
you.
got the most coins right now? Because I can't keep track.
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Technically, honestly, I think right now it's a tie between you and Byron.
Okay.
Doc got quite a lot of coins as well, though, so I think he's definitely.
Oh, thank you.
So he's definitely a close second. Vote for Spiral Watt, Doc for full effect. So-
Thank you,
Spiral
Colin.
Watt.
You see, there is an individual from our community known as Racti who is insanity incarnate, and he asks me questions on the regular. Things like, if the moon was made of spaghetti, would you talk to it? And I have to sort of answer those kinds of things on a daily basis, and it has
responded,
prepared
yes,
me
we've all done it
unknowingly
enough.
for this exact day.
You giant whore, you've been training for years.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing.
Unknowingly, I have been training in the art of madness and bullshit my whole life.
Yes, we've all been to an opium den. This is not new information.
You inhale it like a common, and I drink mine out of a glass made entirely of honey.
All right. So, Panzer V2 actually did donate $10, so he has his own prompt.
Okay.
To
So we're
give.
doing the round robin one this time?
Yes, this is a round robin one.
Okay.
What does that mean?
So here's what's going to happen with the...
Why are your robins round?
So this
What have
is
you
what's
done
going to
to
happen.
them? Monster?
This one is now going to be a collaborative effort. One person will start the story, and then in order for you to add into the story, you're going to put in a coin, right? And that is how that is going to go until the story is at its completion. It's zenith, if you will.
So when you call it.
Essentially.
Yeah.
So Panzer V2, his donation of $10 has yielded with the prompt of, "My lords, have any of you had the good fortune of encountering a certain Lord Nauticus?"
May I please begin,
that.
for I have the beginning of this tale.
By all means, Lord Melchet.
This tale began in 1749. Still drunk from my adventures in the cellar with cognac, I ventured forth into London. Staggering through the streets, I look around. I saw various urchins there on the floor. I saw hattery that I flew upon. I saw various nobles avoiding me due to my rampant personality, until I encountered an old and dear friend of mine, Lord Nauticus, exiting an opium den.
I beg your fucking pardon!
He did not recognize it, but saying, "Oh look, a bucket, let me touch your face." It was upon touching my face did he realize the familiar features of Lord Melchett Kent. It was then we decided to do the one thing we both liked and best enjoyed the world, mocking the French. So of course we went down to Dover and set atop Dover Castle where we could see France, not have to touch it. It was there we constructed a series of cannons in which we could communicate with French people through Morse code. By firing the cannons in sequence, we sent horrible, titillating messages to all the wives and children across Calais and the other coastal towns.
But Lord Melkett,
Yes!
Lord Melkett, we all know that traveling is a myth.
Carl, you're taking over now. Sorry. Santa
Oh,
Blanc.
yes, please.
Grampton, you're taking
I have
over now.
found myself, you see, inexplicably in the southern wastes of Canada, which is just east of the Glass Plains of Australia. A one Lord Nauticus was hunting me through these wastelands, for he wished to spy on my bottom and all the secrets it contained.
What a cad!
What a cad indeed. As we all know, though, cads are a myth. But I had managed to only just fight him off using a martial art that I had invented earlier that day called Taekwondo, where you fight people using a mustache, which I had grown, of course, as you can see, 2 mustaches with which to fight him.
Ah, double belts, I see.
One for offense, one for defense.
And it was fighting through these wastelands of Canada and the Mississauga that we found ourselves upon the lands of Lord Admiral Archibald Busybody.
No, yes, you managed to trespass upon my lands post-haste, and I brought out my favorite saber, and I chased you both to the edges of my lands, but Nauticus chose not to leave, and thus I penetrated him forthwith with my blade. And he squealed!
No.
He squealed, not with pain, but with delight. As he was penetrated with the blade. And he said, "Well, honey, it's not springtime yet. Don't stab me with that. And take me home, sweetie." At which point, I got my French carriage with my musketeers and my grenadiers, and I took him back to London. At which point, Governor Jerry Baldersnatchy intercepted our carriage.
I did intercept your carriage, for you see, what I had assumed was a rampant murder was in fact a right proper buggering with a blunt sword. And finding myself in the middle of such a thing, and it not being my reverse pawn far, I promptly joined because, what the hell? You're in
I am
the
a-
way. You're in
I
the-
am a seaman, after all.
Of course, you're full of it. And of course, in a proper way and through and for, I invited myself in with the proper offering of pornography and safe sex.
No, naturally.
And of course, the carriage continued to be a rocking, and for some reason, no one wanted to come knocking, as we made our way across the Canadian wilderness all the way to British Columbia, where we were stopped several times at the border by border guards who I can quote definitively saying, "Nah, man, I don't want none of that."
That was a good accent.
Prudes, the lot of them.
Yes. And as we pressed over the terrain, I found the Archduke Verily von Vandersnatch.
Yes, I had just finished beating my horses in at that very moment when you were all still in a rocking carriage, and I thought to myself, there may be some damsels inside that need saving. For why would there be a ruckus thing happening inside of a carriage? And lo and behold, I came upon and I saw four dirty Frenchmen and three dirty Frenchmen?
Well, none of us were
4
French, but
dirty
we were saying a lot of
Frenchmen
ooh
and
la
3
la.
Englishmen.
3 Englishmen.
We were speaking French.
3 of them were dirty, one was currently being hosed off.
Ah, yes. Well, with the 4 dirty Frenchmen and 3 British nobles. At first I thought they were all thrashing the Frenchmen, but it was not sounds of pain that I was hearing.
It was not.
This was not, this was indeed an excellent foray that I wished not to be a part of, but I could not help but notice that there was no one driving said carriage.
Oh,
so I
that's
took-
when it.
So I
that's
took
when
it
it-
upon myself to steer this vehicle and drive it across the plains of the deep cinnamon bun swamp.
This is, I believe, is where I come in. I do remember the carriage being driven hard across the plains of the swamp. Swamp does have plains, it's true. It's where we ride our sex carriages, as now is the custom.
I believe we started that custom literally that day.
Yes,
It's
you do
true.
as the locals do.
Well, we happen to being the locals, and I ended up stopping the carriage, demanding boarding rights via a charcuterie board, which I offered, as I assumed everyone would be famished at this point.
Mm.
And what makes you a man more virile than artisan cheeses and different cured meats, of which to inspire you to further acts of rocking? Now, what we do is I clambered aboard. I kicked the door open in my gnomish glory, and under my hat, I delivered the finest of bows. And I said, "Greetings, my lords. Wouldst thou care for a gnomish something? Help me. What was it? What was I said? What was it that I said?
Gnomish stooping.
It was something I offered. I haven't been able to.
Gnome.
I haven't been able to offer it since I broke my leg that day. But
Gnomish delight.
it was a gnomish delight. That's true. It's different than a Turkish delight in that it's not rose flavored. If you get my meaning. Now, there is, however, a similar level of pounded sugar involved. Now, since we were rocketing across the plains, driven by our great Lord Von Busybottom. Is that what your name? I don't remember your names anymore.
Verily, Von
Victory Stash. Holy shit, I'm dying.
No.
Unfortunately, the carriage careened, one might say, almost like a Tokyo Drift style, into an abandoned church cathedral that had been abandoned since the swamps of Cinnamon Bun had become they had become a swamp. We had to abandon the area. Now,
Yes, I remember this. That was my cathedral you smashed into.
indeed it was.
I received words from the masons on the corner of Y that someone had smashed into our cathedral. That was you, rapscallions!
We did, yes, and this is why now I have been declared the Archbishop of the D Cinnamon Bun Swamp, because now I am the Grand Archduke of carriage fuckery.
And I do recall that the only way we were able to draw this carriage of debauchery out of this church was with the offering of infinite pussy, which I didn't tell them was just cats out on this beach of West
No,
Australia.
it was quite the bait and switch. Quite the bait and switch.
Now, when they arrived in this carriage, you see, this Lord Nauticus didn't even have the good sense to be upset or scoffed. He simply strode from this carriage, locking eyes with the sexual tyrannosauric nature of those red horses that come out of the ocean, chasing them into the sea.
The ones
where
that breathe
he's
red
been
hot eggs,
ever
like you said.
since.
The ones that
Gadzooks!
breathe red hot eggs, clearly we call, yes.
Yes.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna call it there. Congratulations.
Excellent job, Lord. Excellent
Yes.
job,
everyone.
Oh, yes.
Yes! Yes!
Yes.
And that's the story of why I quit opium.
Pim's a hell of a driver.
All
We
right.
all know quitting is a myth.
You never
Just
quit
do it
opium.
less often than usual.
Quitters
Alright.
go to meetings.
One
Let-
doesn't just quit the sex carriage trade.
We have another donation.
Oh, here we go.
Oh dear.
Lexington Delta has donated $10.
Oh, dear.
My good lords, please,
Oh, no.
please regale us in the court with the tales of how your sandcastle building tournament ended in the building of Stonehenge.
I remember this story. I remember it quite
Please,
well.
why don't you start us off? I'm a little bit in a fugue state currently.
Of course. Well, as you see, as all of our sandcastle operations become, they inevitably end in an arms race. As everyone knows, it's the last castle standing. So we had taken to adding actual palisades and catapults to our diminutive sandcastle. So we really just had a sandcastle about this tall and an actual fucking cannon shooting at each other on a beach from like 10 feet away.
Because why build a castle any larger than that if it's going to catch a cannonball not 3 minutes later?
Yeah, really, right? So, as the arms race inevitably escalated, we of course went to atomic weaponry, which had the unique aspect of fusing the sand into stone.
True.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
No one's interrupting me.
Because the best
I remember
offense
this
is a
part.
good defense.
Yes.
Yes, I remember this part. It was after you set off the first atomic blast that then Admiral Busybody set off his atomic blast. Then Hampton Pettenshaw set off his one, and it escalated, and the entire field was turned into glass and stone.
And
Of
that's
which,
why there's no more sand left in the world. Sand is just a
None,
myth, you know, you see.
none, it isn't. But it is then we
We created it for the
yet again.
poor.
But that's why we had to escalate the arms race yet again. No longer were they sand castles, they were glass castles. And so we then continued to construct furthermore elaborate palaces. I, myself, sent a letter to my dear friend Queen Victoria and demanded some castle guards to construct my fortress upon the beach. And it was glorious. But then which one of you was the ones that got those foreigners to help? Which one was it?
That would have been me
yes.
and all of the poisonous orangutans that I brought in from Australia.
yes.
They are a bright fluorescent pink, as some of you remember.
Well, they take many hits to kill.
Yes.
Cannot
They were
get
from
it out
Manila.
of my mind.
The gods that you had employed very recently, though, had slain a few, and the pink fluorescent blood had cascaded across the glass structures that we had made, slowly turning them into a gross and mossy stone. And that is, I believe, when we saw you with your weaponry, Lord Admiral Archibald Busybody.
Yes, I happened to bring in some very potent druids to help me with the construction of my castle. Yes, not only were they very skilled craftsmen, but they used some form of magic to imbue my stones, so that way it could survive any form of bombardment, whether it be from an atomic blast or even the daintiest feather. But naturally, you all tried your damnedest to penetrate my walls. In fact, I believe it was Archduke Verily von Victorsnatch that came up with the plan to violate my home.
Yes, of course. And so, things had been escalating.
That's another fucking
I had,
statement.
in admittedly now poor taste, decided to
His was very poor taste.
yes, to take the escalations home, as you said, because I decided that how could my lords concentrate upon their games of building sandcastles, now glass palaces, if their own homes were in some form of turmoil, perhaps perhaps a little bit ablaze. Yes, that was me. I set fire to your home, Admiral, sir.
You damnable villain!
Well, it was a small fire. It only.
I say excellent strategy to the man. You can't defend a fortress if your home's on fire.
This was my thinking at the time. Grand strategic thinking, I must
And it
say.
was
I read that in the Bible
it was
one
the
time.
incinerated deaths of all those druids that, of course, cursed the land and brought about the creation of Stonehenge as we know it today.
Really, we were just removing walls at that point, and we just left what was behind that we didn't want.
That's the trouble with druid blood. It just doesn't come out of glass. Just leaves it looking like stone.
Yes.
Indeed.
Indeed.
Those
Yes.
poor orangutans, pour
Don't
one
tell
out for them.
Don't tell the tourists; they'll be very disappointed.
So many
Clearly.
orangutans and dead druids all over those grounds.
What? What's up?
I'm gonna leave it right there.
Ah! Everyone wins!
Yes, everybody.
All right, Colin DeLorean 3610 has donated $10. The prompt: the tale of how they recruited 5 unruly commoners to fend off the unrequited affection of a repulsive hedge witch and her many clay golem minions.
I feel like that's a reference to something, but I have no idea what it is. So let me get this one down. How we
Yeah, I'm gonna have to make a note. Hold on.
plus
Yeah,
5
that's a lot.
commoners.
5 commoners to repress the
Which-
illusion
Oh
of-
wait, it is a reference. I get it.
The unrequited affection of a repulsive hedge witch and her many clay
I
golem
get it.
minions.
I got it.
Got it.
What is it?
Don't get
I
it.
don't. Please explain.
Fucking Power Rangers.
Oh! Okay,
I was
got
like
it.
I was like talking about
Yeah.
5 commoners. Hedge with son of a bitch.
Okay, now I get it. We just need more color coding in the system.
Hey, guess what? That means we're all collectively Lord Zed.
Brr!
Bully!
Cursed Rangers!
Don't you remember?
I do remember being the inner thigh of a muscle suit.
Well,
You see,
I do
we
believe
were all
that we started.
collectively trapped in a large tube that many believed it was made of glass, but we all know, of course, glass was made a myth back in 1956. This tube was made from
Oh, you meant Zordon, because Lord Zed's the dude with
Samsonite.
the red suit.
yes.
And
I
the
am
crow.
confused regularly and
Zordon's the blue head.
So,
Oh, he's Australian. Trust me. He
I'm
gets
what they call
confused all the
frequently incorrect.
yes.
time. Yes.
So there was this ugly witch who was coming at us with her many clay golems as they flailed about the airs pitifully, trying to get our attention. And we felt ourselves too busy and too important to turn our romantic attentions towards such an undue display of romantic affection. It would have been certainly beneath us and very uncouth for us to respond to such haberdashery.
And
Yes.
my lord, is that not when we all as a group decided that instead of handling this ourselves, we would hire a band of ne'er-do-well children?
Yes,
Wasn't it? It was
Yeah.
children.
yes, please.
They're easily replaced.
Yeah,
Clearly, we can hire children.
we'll make up
We can-
some ritual involving a sword. It'll be great for replacing them.
We'll
And
tell
the
them
toes
that.
hadn't even grown in yet, so it was
Yes,
fine.
exactly. The toeless children that we hired to fend off this witch in our stead. Then we told them that they have a special watch of some sort. And
Oh,
instead of actually granting them any variety of power, what it
Oh,
does
yes,
is
I remember this.
they
part.
say the key words, and it injects a form of mushroom powder into their bloodstream, and they go absolutely mental. And they think they have some variety of superpower. And then we have these children
Oh, yes.
run
I
off
remember-
and defend us against this witch's many legions of clay golems, of which we cannot be bothered to fight ourselves, because we're too busy in our fuck carriages.
Oh,
Grand Sparkle Lord, I fear I must have to correct you. It wasn't.
Please do,
It
please.
wasn't.
Please,
It wasn't
please,
the.
correct me, please.
It wasn't the psilocybin mushroom. It was
Yes.
a derivative of opium, which we told them it is now morphine time.
Well,
yeah. Yes.
so you are correct. It was opium. I saved the psilocybin injector switch for myself. I do apologize.
Yes, I remember. I had to go to the watchsmith and say I want a pocket watch that when you click it open, it injects your thumb with a bit of morphine. And then we gave them to a bunch of urchins we found on the street. And then we didn't want them with their names, so we just made them wear colors, and we yelled at them by their color. And then
That is
we
what we
sent them
did.
off.
Yes, that is true.
And then I remember we invented dinosaurs. Because as we all know, dinosaurs are...
Dinosaurs are a myth!
Dinosaurs are a myth. That is
Really?
correct.
We all agree on that, I think, yes.
It was hilarious
specifically
watching them
invented by the
climb on
church.
top of each other and charge at those clay golems, which were also made of clay, so they really just kept getting their ass kicked, because clay just rips apart your hands. I don't know why.
We didn't even they weren't even fired. They were just wet clay.
Well, she did fire them, but they were immobile at that point.
They were wet clay in garbage bags.
And then there was that part at the end when we told them they had to combine their strengths at the end of it.
Yeah.
And they all just threw the colored horses next to one another and charged.
No, I must correct you.
No, just please.
Please. Clearly, we were all out of our minds on various drugs at the time. Please correct us.
Yes. It was not it was not horses they rode. We had I had just earlier that month invented the horseless carriage, and so they were all riding horseless carriages.
Yes, that's right.
So
my lord, you are obviously...
and so they had created these costumes, and they when they drove these horseless carriages into one another, they somehow stacked and landed on top of one another. And that is what is what.
My lord, I have to interrupt. You cannot have been the first person to invent a carriage without a horse that you just pushed down a hill. A horseless carriage, indeed.
I believe that was invented
if I
in
might
Rome.
add.
It was enough to impress the ladies.
Yes, and if I might add, gentlemen, do you remember when the witch tried to bring in a green one and save them?
Oh yeah! We got him high on opium too.
To also bring in a drug-addled street urchin, painted him green, as we all know, the green of Australia, and then sent him
Their national flag is just green.
4 or 5 drug-addled street urchins in an attempt to slow them down. And they all just joined forces at the end of the day anyway.
And beat her back pretty soundly. Have you ever seen 6 coked out teenagers?
Oh, do you remember
Beat up
that
a
time
witch?
where we told them that the Greenwood had turned against them, and we made them all fight each other in a dirty basement?
And there was that candle, do you remember? And then that one kid turned white.
Yes, the pipe in the ceiling exploded. Do you remember? And then the steam washed the green paint off of him.
Yeah.
And it turns out that because he'd been painted green for so long, it turned pasty white from the lack of sunlight.
And it was the lead in the paint that was driving him mad,
exactly.
along with the opium.
Now I'm good. I can be the leader.
That was the day we invented lead poisoning.
Oh, good time.
Oh, very good time.
Jolly good.
Yes.
War crimes,
Then
yes.
those 6 drug-addled
Call it
street
there.
urchins gave her quite a thrashing.
Yes, we threw the witch to them.
Samanthaline Samathalite is Ken's calling it there.
This has got insane.
And we tied up the witch, and we threw her into their basement, and they beat the snot out of her.
You know what the worst part is, I think, about that collective story is that is the least exaggerative fucking thing we've said. Almost all of it was based entirely on the fucking Power Rangers. That's how much of a fever dream that show was.
That was more plausible than the actual Power Rangers.
If there's any fans out there that want to animate any segment we talked about, do that part.
Yes, please.
Don't. You're going to be put on a list.
Oh, how we doing, Sam?
We have half an hour left.
I thought we were only going to be an hour and a
Oh my
half.
god, I thought we were overtime.
Because
This is
I said
This
roughly
has
an
gone
hour
on
and a half
for
for this.
eternity.
An hour and a half? Well, we have done an hour and a half. We've done an hour and 25, actually.
Okay.
But
I don't know how we're going to top the Power
All right,
Rangers.
Sam, throw us another prompt.
Yeah, one last prompt. We'll take it home.
Sam, throw us a prompt.
all right, would somebody in
I want
chat
some.
like to
I want some random bullshit, please.
would somebody in chat like to put a prompt, or shall I look through the book?
Give me some fuel for this engine, baby. I need to rev my goods.
Time flies when you're having a psychotic break.
Time flies. Will you stop giving a shit about continuity?
I haven't had this much fun since I was on opium.
It's morphine time.
Oh, we're going to hell.
Is the
so
chat
bad.
enjoying this?
Oh,
No, we're not. We're too rich.
Samantha lean, Samantha lean, Samantha roll.
Roar.
Oh,
All right.
That
So
last-
I
that
says
last
to him,
occurred.
my father owns the yacht club.
All right. You know what?
yes,
Let's do it.
my family owns the lake.
That's fine. My family owns the assassin who was in the boat.
All right, my lords.
Yeah.
Tell me on how you found the city of gold, El Dorado.
Quite by accident, you see. I woke up in it. It was very strange. I was zeppelining across the open blue, as one does, and we ended up, somehow we lost our way and found ourselves over the Incan Peninsula, as you recall, before it was blown out of existence that one unfortunate time. Now, what happened was, I was attempting to show a rather fetching young woman in far too many petticoats, and just how strong the wind is up here. I opened the door and got sucked clean out of the building. It was a building, and I got sucked out of it. And I fell 400 miles. It was an amazing blimp. I've never seen it again. The captain died immediately. It has been flying ever since. I fell 400 miles. And then I remembered, if I stick my arms and my legs out, I do what they call the spread eagle, and I slow my descent. I used my various coats to control myself like a flying squirrel monkey, and I fell into this golden town. It was literally paved with gold. Now, I impacted with the ground, you see, as hard as one does, but because it was gold, it was very soft, and I sprung back to life directly on my feet. Now,
yes,
I had knocked myself out for the sheer excitement, and then sprung up, awakened at this gloriousness, but also realized underneath me is the street was lined with gold. It wasn't made of gold. It was lined with gold. So actually, the entire thing was was a gold leaf distraction. It was an ancient tourist trap. I bought 14 keychains and a T-shirt, and then ended up making my way home.
I did, in fact, see you plummet from the sky into El Dorado. I just
was.
found my way there by accident. As we all know, the golden city of El Dorado is just north of Australia.
Well, as you know, the world is round, so if you continue north, you'll eventually come to something else.
Indeed, flat objects are a myth. We all know.
Look at my head. Very
What is
round.
paper even? Something that made to make the plebs better? I don't know.
Well, it's not flat, is it? It's got
Well,
like
the
the
gold
smallest.
leafing was making the ground far too bright to look at, so I was looking
What?
skyward, saw that zeppelin passing overhead, and you
Just
diving
rocketing
out
past.
of it, using your spread eagle action to slow your descent to merely knocking you on yourself unconscious rather than a complete and full death. Masterfully done, I might add.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
But I
Thank
was
you.
traveling with my good and best traveling friend, who has been drunk since the 1700s. That would be Lord Milkhead of Kent.
Can I interrupt you for a
yes.
second? Not the first time I've been violently sucked out of an engine.
yes. I remember this expedition. We were searching for underground tunnels and giant worms, so we had all that seismic equipment with us. And when he impacted, we were able to locate him immediately, and then we all met up in El Dorado.
Yes.
Then, yes.
This is where that's when we all had hot dogs for lunch.
Yes, throw disappointment.
I remember.
That's the only food they eat in El Dorado is hot dogs.
I remember.
That is a small myth. They don't eat the hot dogs themselves. They boil the hot dogs and then drink the water.
No, oh yes, well that's how they get their liquid
And
protein.
then they just
diet.
leave the hot dogs dry.
Well, we couldn't have that because we were starving, and real men
Well,
eat.
we're civilized, of course, so we
Well,
ate
we
hot
know
dogs.
that the hot dog
Yes.
soup is the worst part of the hot dog, but these filthy natives knew nothing of our refined culture.
Indeed.
Yes. In our refined culture, we use the hot dog water to throw at people who upset us.
Well,
Exactly.
I always throw them at my servants so that they remind me of better times.
It's like,
Oh, I do
geez,
remember.
you don't smell like the summer anymore.
I do remember we were at the hot dog stand eating our hot dogs, careening down the golden streets upon a huge streak of mayonnaise was Governor Gary Boldersnatchy.
Well, because the ground being covered in...
Oh, he said my name now! It's my turn to explain how I
It's very little.
I had hitched a ride with the actual Baron Munchaussen and Lord Nauticus.
You cheating bastard!
You see,
it's been a while
that
since we
dynamic duo was going by the names Miguel and Tulio, and they were apparently trying to find a road to El Dorado, of which, of course, there are no roads in a jungle. But through a strategic amount of lute playing and Nauticus wearing a dress, they managed to make their way to the city, and I believe that was made into a film. But I don't care about that. Statistically speaking, however, I had also arrived and found all of you on your mayonnaise mustache ride. And knowing when I saw a good time for a joust, immediately stole a lance that was, of course, made of gold. But it was gold-plated, so underneath it was, of course, resound titanium. And set myself to prepping myself with my lance. And meeting your card head-on, both to stop you and also to slay the beast.
Excuse me, my lords, I've dropped my crown.
Of course, go get it.
And you ran me through with that lance. It was the
Well, I
third
missed the
time
cart,
died.
and you were there.
Yes. I remember this part clearly. You had impaled the Australian guide that I'd hired, and it was through the blood that the giant worms we were hunting for were lured into the city.
Indeed.
It killed so many natives that
So
the streets... There's so many natives. That El Dorado...
Queen Elizabeth would have been proud.
Oh, yes. But I
The
remember
first one, the first
Golden
one,
City-
the first one, not the current
Yes,
one.
first. No, not the first one. But
first
I
one.
remember the Golden City turned red for a day.
It did.
It did!
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
This is how we invented rose gold.
Yes.
And it was at that time that I arrived. I found my way to the City of Gold. At that point, I did not know it was the City of Gold. Blood at that point. I had
It was
gone.
that time of year, it's true.
I had gone sailing, on my three-masted schooner, by myself, of course, because I'm such a capable sea hand. Through no fault of my
You
own.
are quite the seaman. I'm not above these jokes.
None of us are.
yeah, we're all very drunk.
And through no fault of my, and cast through to the waves, but having befriended a turtle and two dolphins, they had agreed to put me ashore as I rode the back of a turtle being pulled by two dolphins, and the place where they left me was, in their eyes, in their memory, a sparkling and magnificent place. Of course, it was less so when I promptly arrived to be knee-deep in pools of blood.
Indeed. Now, I believe it was in this moment when Lord Admiral Archibald Busybody came careening down from the sky, wielding a pair of, I'm going to say, South American sabers in each hand and had an albatross tied to each foot. How did that come about?
Well,
That's how I was flying in, you see.
I was traveling on the same Zeppelin that Grand Swakkelord was, and seeing that he had been sucked out so erroneously, I decided to venture forth and make my way down. However, as opposed to you, I merely had my military dress, so I strapped two albatross to my legs, and I drove out with my swords and met down there at the road to El Dorado, ready to face any form of battle. It was at this point that I joined the rest of you, and we ventured forth into the city that we had all erroneously discovered.
Yes,
The
and
Battle
then
of
we had
El
to take-
Dorado.
Yes.
Lasted for 4 weeks, that battle.
Indeed. I countlessly fought off worms after getting better from being stabbed using the Taekwondo Dusseldorf, my mustache martial art.
Ah, yes.
I got better.
Yes.
How did you?
Unfortunately,
fight
there was
off
no
worms,
need
if
to
you
deploy
now
my
tell me?
cure of rheumatism nor capacity, for there are no lions in El Dorado.
Yes, but I agree with the Australian here. We should each describe in detail how we fought off the worms for 4 weeks.
Yes, tell me this now.
Yes,
Yes, say more words.
with my sabers clad in hand, I had 2 lesser knights. I had Sir Timothy Rice and Sir Elton John side by side with me to defeat the worms. At the same time, however, they were coming up curiously with words song from El Dorado.
You're the devil.
Naturally!
Of course I am.
Well, as I came upon this, upon El Dorado, weaponless and from recent shipwreck, I could only use the materials on hand, which were the seaweed cords I used to bind and then free my dolphin, my dolphin friends. And
Well,
of
now
course,
you're brothers in arms, are they not?
the massive,
Yes.
and the massive amounts of blood. So I used the congealed and drying blood, shaped them using the using my seaweed ropes to form several spears and javelins.
That's quite metal.
Yes.
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 As well.
Quite metal.
Yeah.
Well, there are only 2 of us left, and oh Christ!
Is it you and me?
Melchett,
Yes.
your turn. I'll go last this time.
Oh, that's fine. I remember this one. This was a great part. This, for some reason, reminded me of my time in the Orient, when I looked up and I saw the outstanding flashes of light that they managed to create, colors I had not seen before, and explosions of wonder. And I realized perhaps I could use that as a tool to fight these worms. And as we all know, I don't travel anywhere with no less than a 3-year supply of brandy. So I struck a match and lit a small torch and held it before my breath and breathed heavily out onto the worms, igniting the fumes in my breath. I called it the Flame Belch Thrower, and I burned several of these worms as I marched through the streets of El Dorado. And I believe at the other end of the city was you, Governor.
Yes. Well, you
Most
see,
of the colors in
I
your
had-
flame belt
I had
green
decided to
red,
use-
which are a myth.
you see, I had decided to use Darwinism to defeat these worms. For what is the true hunter of the worm? The early bird, if you will. And what bird is earlier than any other bird? The phoenix, for it never dies. So I climbed to the top of the volcano at El Dorado and, rightly but through my deductive skills, realized there was a phoenix in it, and I wrangled the mighty phoenix through a complicated use of the mayonnaise and hot dog water, as it found it for some reason repugnant, even though we are English. So, having tamed the mighty phoenix, I rode it forthwith, suffering many, many burns around my genitalia, and landed it upon the worms, and the phoenix did doth appreciate it, and cried for my wounded genitalia, which, as you know, the tears of a phoenix can heal any wound.
And then your crotch rose from the ashes.
Stronger and mightier than before, like great
slightly
Pax
more reddened.
Britannia.
Yes!
Yes.
Slightly more reddened and vaguely on fire.
Yes.
My crotch rose from the ashes.
God
And now,
save the queen.
sometimes when I pee, it burns. I
Well,
believe that brings us to an end to the tale.
Yes. Gonna call it
I
there.
can't help but notice our dear Sam Light over there appears to be cowering her head in both shame and memory of these wonderful events.
Samantha Lean, Samantha Light.
Yes.
Because you see, don't you all remember? It was the gem of El Dorado, Samanthilite, that we found.
Yes!
They are now our leaders.
gems!
There's gonna be a ban on us playing this game.
I just wanted to be part of the group, I'm sorry.
Oh, but I believe that puts us to a close.
Yes, it does.
Oh.
Thank you, everybody.
I'd like to apologize to everyone.
For what?
I'd like to announce I regret nothing.
I'd like to announce that there's probably not going to be any notes in the Patreon for this one.
No, there's a little bit of notes. It's
It's
gonna
going to be a page with everyone and the names they had.
yeah.
That's it.
Bully.
It'll be there for
Bully.
Patreon. It'll be
If
for
you
the
want
patrons.
it.
Next time we get name tags, that'll make everything a lot easier.
Yeah. Oh my god, that was fun. Did the chat have a good time, Sam?
Yes, very much so. They're all verily enthused.
Verily.
Very.
I even got the actual Baron Munchaussen to show up, and maybe that's canon now that he and Lord Nauticus are friends and went to El Dorado, and that's the plot of the movie El Dorado.
And was laid to rest at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah. Oh, I had fun.
But all the things were
This is great.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I couldn't tell if Doc was having a good time because of his fucking mustache in disguise, but
I'm very tired.
Sounds like you need a bit of opium to pick you up, old boy.
It's morphine time.
Next week, D20 Live will have craft check at our normal time. We will be on from 2 to 5 doing our normal building stuff. The week after that will be our Pendragon stream, which will close out the year, followed by the survey at the end of the year. And we'll be
Is that
taking
like already time for the survey again?
Yeah, it is.
wow.
I gotta write that fucking thing up. Oh,
Already.
yeah. Apart from that, I think that's it. There will be, of course, another Persona episode, episode 5, coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
Around the same time as the Pendragon episode. Oh, sorry, stream. Oh,
Sounds great.
This was fun. This was stupid, and it was fun.
Let's never do this again.
Let's
Oh,
do
we'll
this
probably
all
end up
the
doing it
time.
again.
Let's make this an annual tradition. We just do a really simple RPG before at the beginning of Christmas. We just get everyone together to make a mess out of it. Next year it'll be Nice Marines or something. One person chuckled because they've seen the Nice Marine rules. But I think that's it for all of us here at D20 Live. I've been Mike. Starting with Byron.
I'm Byron, guys. Thank you very much.
Western Tom.
Hi, I'm Western Tom.
Jordan.
I am this man called Jordan.
Eastern Tom.
Hey, this has been Tom.
And
No,
of course,
OG Tom.
OG Tom.
I'm Tom.
and of course,
I'm Tom.
and of
There
course,
can
last
be
but not
only
least.
one.
And of course,
And
last but not least.
Ah, yes, of course. Granton St. Frabble was a ruse. It's me, Dr. Terawatt, also known as Connell Macbeth. Thank you all for
Gadzooks!
having me out.
Holy cow!
Colin Macbeth is a myth.
I didn't know it was him the whole time.
Oh,
And I've been your moderator, Sam. And thank you, everybody, so much for coming. Thank you for all of our players. Thank you very much for the donations. We will see you all next week for craft check.
bye.
Bye.
Bye.